according to unconfirmed reports that we are also receiving, administration police post has been attacked. 2 APs plus the Damajale chief have been kidnapped by what many residents there believe is armed militia. One unidentified body is still lying at the AP camp, and the gunfight is still on. That is the information that we're getting right now at KTN. Information coming in, news just coming in from Garissa. Of course, we are keeping an eye on that for you, and as soon as we have more information on it, we will let you know what's going on in Garissa in the spate of insecurity that is currently facing the country. That is what you need to know. Heavy gunfire currently going on in Garissa. Administration police post has been attacked. 2 APs and the Damajale chief have been kidnapped. We understand that the people who have kidnapped these men are widely believed to be armed militia, and finally we know that there is an unidentified body that is currently lying at the AP camp, and that gunfight is still going on. We are keeping an eye on that story for you. Now, let's move on to Addis Ababa, and tonight, the opening session of the African Union 50th anniversary celebrations was characterized by sharp criticism of Western trade and governance policies and their influence in Africa. African leaders openly praised China for helping the continent develop its infrastructure, as the United States Secretary of State John Kerry sat through the session. And as KTN's Noah Otieno reports, the Golden Jubilee celebrations began with a candid admission by leaders that Africa still faces a myriad of problems that should be dealt with within the next 50 years if the dream of the founding leaders of the Organization of African Union back then and African Union are to be realized.
African leaders opened the Golden Jubilee celebrations with a surprising hard tackle on the West for what they called forcing foreign policies and solutions on the African continent. With the mood already set by the Executive Council of the African Union in the last 3 days here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the leaders did not appear deterred by the presence of the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the United States Secretary of State John Kerry. The speeches appeared specifically targeted, given that John Kerry already informed his U.S. government that he was coming to attend these celebrations in Ethiopia purposely because there was concern of growing Chinese and other Asian countries' influence in Africa.
It is encouraging to note that some of our friends and partners have given priority to infrastructure development in Africa in terms of their strategic partnership with our continent. In this regard, I wish to take this opportunity to express my deepest appreciation to China for investing billions of this sector to assist us in our development endeavors. Of course, we need the continued support of our friends and partners in our development endeavors. First and foremost, we seek their understanding on the need for us to have the policy space to design and implement our own development strategies based on objective realities of our countries and drawing valuable lessons from our successful developmental experiences.
There is no greater example of solidarity than in the sacrifices of African peacekeepers across the continent. When we therefore talk about African solutions to African problems, it is because we know that we can only permanently silence the guns if we act in solidarity and in unity.
The same message of African pride in African solutions was soon to follow from IGAD member countries, as embodied in the speech of Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta at the Millennium Hall in the heart of Addis, where the celebrations of the commemoration of the Golden Jubilee were moved in the afternoon session. President Uhuru told the celebrants and Africa in general that African nations are struggling with nation building, instability and conflicts, and demands for deeper democratization. The AU heads of states and governments will begin the AU General Assembly inside this hall tomorrow morning, at which even more criticism is expected to emerge against the West as the African Union presidents discuss a decision asking the ICC to stop prosecution against President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. The AU presidents will discuss a decision that wants the ICC to return the cases against Uhuru and William Ruto back to Kenya to be tried through the Kenyan local judiciary. Noah Otieno, KTN, at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
No, Teno, thank you very much. Let's stay in Ethiopia. And Uhuru Kenyatta gave his maiden speech as Kenya's fourth president at that celebration of the African Union. And just like several other leaders in the region, he reiterated the importance of unity and prosperity in the continent if the Union has to meet its objective of promoting unity and solidarity among African states. Here is what he had to say.
As IGAD joins in celebrating the Golden Jubilee, I wish to pay tribute to the founding fathers of this great continent. In their wisdom, these great statesmen and Pan-Africanists promoted African solidarity to achieve the total liberation of our continent and aspired for Africa's integration as a means to spur growth and prosperity of our peoples and nations, and also as a guarantee to build a strong voice in the international arena. While we acknowledge the progress we have made so far, I strongly believe that history beckons us to seize the opportunity that destiny offers today in order to fulfill the dreams of our forefathers. Mr. Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we begin the next decade of the OAU-AU, and while aware that the challenges associated with state formation, self-determination of peoples, and resolution of conflict among and within states still exist, we know that securing our future depends on us growing our economies, democratizing governance, managing our diversity, and ensuring the equitable distribution of resources.
Now, those celebrations come amid a mixed picture in Africa. The continent is home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world, yet poverty and inequality still dog many neighborhoods. The continent is also recording more regular elections, but real freedom is still far away. KTN's Joageo now takes a closer look at the state of the continent 5 decades on.
Structure that is the African Union headquarters plays host to tens of African heads of state and government.
But this way crowded, so we go another way.
It is an all too familiar sight for Kadus Tasfai, a taxi driver in Addis Ababa.
The problem is everything is done by groups, not all by peoples.
By that he means that such meetings are exclusive clubs which do not necessarily represent what the ordinary African wants, a deep reflection shared by other analysts on the continent.
In many places we have a modern or near modern constitution. We have an array of institutions, from judiciaries to anti-corruption bodies to human rights bodies and so on. But in a lot of the places we still have elite capture of those institutions. So we just have paper democracy, not real democracy.
Yet the story of Africa is not all doom and gloom. For instance, at least 6 out of 10 fastest growing economies in the world in the last 10 years are in Africa. The continent now has more regular elections. And according to some analysts,
this is no longer dictated by Westerners. This is no longer dictated by external, but it's coming from African really looking at their own problem with their own perspective.
People tend to talk negatively about the situation in Africa, but I think Africans have come a long way. We've gone through periods of democracy, authoritarian rule, and we're moving again to, through another democratic period.
Yet such images still scar the surface of the continent in places such as Mali and the DRC. And the much talked about Africa's rise is still plagued by lopsided economic policies that rob the continent of billions of dollars each year.
The way in which we plan our economies needs to respond to, for instance, the issue of unemployment. That's a big one. I think it's across the board. Most African countries need to deal with unemployment. And how do you deal with it? You cannot continue importing. You cannot continue exporting raw materials. You have to add value in a way that then can create jobs. You have to think about monies that leave the continent, illicit capital flight, tax evasion.
Then there is a question of inclusion of all sectors of society in key decision-making organs.
It's not sufficient that we have 2 women presidents. People celebrate and say, yes, we have made progress, but it's not sufficient. I think we still need to have women in the spaces of decision-making.
The 50th anniversary also comes amid growing concern over basic freedoms in a number of countries, such as the recent raid on the Monitor newspaper in Uganda.
If you're going to clamp down on the media in the kind of way that we've seen in Uganda, then citizens have a reason to be afraid, because then you lose the voice, you lose the channels with which you can speak and have your leaders listen to you and articulate your issues.
Still, the party will go on here in Addis, because all is not lost.
The challenge here is how we will move to implement all those beautiful things we have in the Constitutive Act of the African Union.
I think the first thing that they should be doing is to reflect on what they've done in 50 years.
People are asking the question, for instance, how many African countries actually require visas to come into Addis to attend the AU summit? You'll be surprised. It's almost every other country. So what does that say about the freedom of African citizens to move across and around the continent?
And Tasfai sums it up in one word: unity.
When we are Africans, unity, we can solve the problems simply.
A fitting prescription as Africa embarks on the road to the next 50 years. Exactly 50 years ago, the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, now renamed the African Union, was established right here in the Ethiopian capital. 5 decades later, a lot has changed on the continent, but many of the aspirations of those founding fathers remain alive today. And the onus is now on the current generation of leaders to turn them into reality. Joageo, KTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
KTN's Joageo there, taking a closer look at the state of the continent 5 decades on. And also on this historic date, KTN earlier today launched a new weekly show that will be keeping a finger on the pulse of the continent. Africa Speaks, hosted by KTN's Joy Doreen Mbira, utilizes social media to track conversations around the continent and put it in perspective. Here are snippets of what we aired during the inaugural show.
Is Africa Speaks, the program that will digest all matters African, from economics, social, political, culture, using the various social media platforms.
That's Africa Speaks, that will be coming your way every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Make a date with that. Now, the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy has waded into the TJRC report debate, with its leader, Raila Odinga, defending the report. Raila says the facts have been laid bare in the TJRC report and the recommendations should be implemented by the government. However, the coalition is against the ICC pullout mooted at the AU summit currently ongoing in Ethiopia. KTN's Eric Njoka reports.
Time has come for this country to look at its past so that we can reconcile the society and move on.
The former Prime Minister's sentiment is his first since the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission released its report earlier this week. Even though some leaders in the ODM party demanded the full implementation of the TJRC report, despite it adversely mentioning party members, Raila insisted that it was prudent for those in connection with serious crimes, including assassinations, theft of public land and incitement to violence, to be investigated or prosecuted.
You cannot move on without actually getting the truth, because they say that truth shall set us free. It is important to get the truth, because it's on the basis of the truth that then you can reconcile the society. And when the society is reconciled is when there can be peace.
The court team did not shy from airing their views on President Uhuru Kenyatta's efforts to rally the African Union to stop 2 cases at the International Criminal Court, despite the United Nations Security Council failing to support the termination of the cases.
I don't think anything has changed. And I think the best thing is for people to prepare for defense. This is the way to go.
The former vice president maintains that plans to pass a resolution backing a request to have the ICC charges referred back to Kenya was bound to fail.
I would personally advise Africa not to consider the move to pull out of the Rome Statute. That will be taking this country backwards now, because you'll be saying yes to impunity. That, I can tell you, will be ill-advised.
Is an agenda brought by the government of Uganda, seconded by the government of Southern Sudan. And when the meeting is over, as a country, our head of state will give us the position, and we will abide by the Africa Union position.
The leaders at the African Union Summit are set to deliberate on the cases at the ICC and pass a resolution that sets a major precedent in international justice. However, Africa and the West appear to be on a collision course over the way the court works. Eric Njoka, KTN.
Away from politics now, and the 10th edition of the Mata Hat Run was concurrently held today in Nairobi, Mombasa and Mumias. Kenyans this morning turned up in large numbers to take part in the run that raises funds to assist children from families who cannot afford cardiac surgery. The Standard Media Group, Capital FM and other sponsors are determined to hit this year's target of 100 million shillings. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabwa participated in the run and filed the following report. Take a look.
Early Saturday morning, a sea of green filled the Nyayo National Stadium. Thousands of Kenyans had donned the distinctive green t-shirts, put on their running shoes and assembled at the stadium, the starting point of the 2013 Mata Hat Run. They set off at a run, anxious to complete the 10-kilometer run. The speed would soon ease to a jog and then a walk. Their reasons for taking part in the race varied. Some came to support children close to them.
We have a child we are supporting. Is supposed to go for operation maybe the next 1 month.
Others chose to pay back a good deed. 3-year-old Tandiwe, who benefited from the program, came back this year with her father.
She had a congenital condition called PDA, and she had surgery when she was 4 months, but now she's fine. She's 3 years and enjoying the heart run.
Others, however, simply sought to extend a helping hand to those in need.
I'm over 82 now. God has given me good health, so I said I'll do something for somebody.
All of them united for a common cause, to raise money for thousands of children who suffer heart ailments, but whose families are unable to raise the funds required for surgery. In 2012, over 200 children were able to undergo surgeries owing to the funds raised by the Mata Hat Run. This year, organizers have raised the target to 100 million shillings, a sum that they hope will help them to touch even more children's hearts.
And we agree that we will work out strategies together with our other sponsors, Safaricom and all the others, to make sure that next year is not less than 100 million shillings.
Next year we hope to do 250 surgeries. A surgery costs about 500,000 shillings. So if you multiply that by the 250, you will realize that we're talking about over 100 million shillings.
In the face of the higher target, mobile service provider Safaricom has provided a zero-rated pay bill number 526-300, through which members of the public can make their donations for the rest of the year. And this great undertaking is the reason why early on Saturday morning, Kenyans stand out in large numbers to race to the finish line. Wilkis Tanyabwa, KTN in Nairobi.
A somber mood has engulfed Maweni village in Kilifi County as the family mourns the loss of 3 members who died in a sewer last night. The 3 were part of a group that had been hired by the management of a restaurant in Malindi town to empty its septic tank. Sophia Wanuna reports.
Relatives and neighbors wept uncontrollably after learning of the death of their kin. It was a tragic end for 3 out of 8 men hired to empty this septic tank in Mawani village, Malindi town. As they went about their duties, their machine malfunctioned, forcing one of the deceased to enter the tank. When he took too long, one of the technicians who had accompanied them followed in to check if all was well. Moments later, he was heard calling out for help.
Ile alipoona kwamba amesikia vibaya alipiga kelele. Sasa huyo mwenzake akampa mkono, shimo lenyewe halikuwa refu, ilikuwa futi 6. Alimpa mkono kumsaidia kumtoa. Hasa kwa zile nguvu akamvuta na mwenzake akaanguka na mwenzake naye pia ndani. Wakawa wameingia ndani watatu.
Members of the public responded to shouts for help from the 5 casual workers. Firefighters from the defunct Malindi Municipal Council were called in. The rescue mission took more than 45 minutes before one of the victims was retrieved from the sewer alive.
Kwanza alipotoka ni Modi ambao alikuwa tayari ana hema. tukajaribu kumkimbiliza hospitali mara moja, lakini wale wawili baada ya kuchukua madakika mengi wakitolewa walikuwa shakufa tayari.
He was rushed to the Malindi District Hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Police later arrived at the scene before the families took the bodies to their home for burial preparations as per the Islamic religion. The three are believed to have died as a result of suffocation. Sophia Wanuna, KTN.
Now, thanks to the Western world, the African standard of big is beautiful is changing fast. And with it, a surge in the popularity of plastic surgery to get the perfect small body. Here in Kenya, the demand for plastic surgery is rising, with many financially stable women opting to go under the knife to enhance their appearance. But as Najma Ismail reports, the society is far from accepting this reality.
In the Western world, it is a common phenomenon, although mainly enjoyed by celebrities. However, the practice is slowly creeping into the Kenyan lifestyle. With more plastic surgeons being certified in the country, the number is expected to grow. One such doctor is Nangole Wanjala, who tells us that the plastic surgery clientele is growing.
Majority of the procedures that they desire either is abdominoplasty, or what is referred to as the tummy tuck. Some ladies do request for breast enlargement or breast augmentation. Majority of the clients who require plastic surgical services are ladies. I guess ladies are more conscious about their beauty and their looks.
Not only do these women want to enhance their physical appearances, they also want satisfaction in the bedroom. This is where vaginoplasty comes in.
This usually happens after someone has successfully gone through the reproductive period and would wish to have her vaginal muscles tightened. Now this will enhance her sexual lifestyle and probably make it more better than when she do not have tight vaginal muscles.
We tried to get several women to give us a testimony of the procedures they have had done, but most of them declined to appear on public television, saying it is an invasion of their privacy. And to many, it remains a taboo.
I don't recommend it because we should be natural. The age will come and let it come the way it should be.
We should accept ourselves the way God has created us, because we are wonderfully made by our God, by our Creator. Actually, we should appreciate ourselves.
The best thing is that to remain natural is the way forward.
Experts, however, differ and say there's nothing wrong with a few nip and tucks in order to stay younger for longer. Plastic surgery is slowly becoming common in Kenya, with local universities now offering master's courses in plastic and reconstructive surgery. However, a word of caution, stay away from the quacks. Najma Ismail, KTN.
Najma Ismail there telling you stay away from the quacks. You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're just about to take a short break, but just before we do that, let me run you by breaking news that we have received at KTN. Of course, we aired it just at the beginning of this bulletin. There has been heavy gunfire exchange going on in Garissa County. It has been taking on for the last couple of hours at a place we understand is called Abdi Sugo, and that is just past Dadaab. According to unconfirmed reports, administration police post has been attacked. 2 APs plus the Damajale chief have been kidnapped by armed militia. One unidentified body is lying at the camp. That gunfight is still going on. We're keeping an eye on that story for you. We're looking out for the details. They are scanty, but as soon as we get them, we will pass them over to you. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're taking a short break right now, and just ahead, sheep adopts monkey in Kerio Valley. KTN Central Kenya senior reporter Carol Nderi met a young man at a choir competition organized by Nakada in Nyeri to sensitize the youth against alcohol and drug abuse. He has been there, done it, and is now reformed. Here is his story.
A glance at 30-year-old Stephen Kimani, who hails from Nyeri County,
And nothing betrays the fact that Kimani was once a hardened drug user. He confesses that he started indulging in the vice in Form 2 and continued throughout college, much to the chagrin of his parents. He even attributes his father's illness to the stress he brought on his parents as a result of his substance abuse.
Nilikuwa nitumia bangi, nikunywa chang'aa. Hata madawa wengine nilikuwa nimepewa hata sijui majina, lakini nilimeza. Lakini kitu moja najua, nilisikitisha wazazi wangu sana. Kwa maana mama yangu alikuwa mwalimu, alikuwa kiongozi wa kanisa, babangu alikuwa kiongozi wa kanisa. Waliniombea sana, lakini najua hata magonjwa mengine kama blood pressure, babangu anakuanga nayo. Naona kama alitoa kwa maana alikuwa najua mimi ni kijana yake na amenilipia karo. Alinizaa, lakini ni kama naelekea kupotea.
So immersed was he that he stopped at nothing to obtain funds to fund his habit.
Kupika watu geta. Hiyo ni experience baya sana. Hata sipendi sana kukumbuka. Lakini niseme hiyo ni nightmare. Hata sitaki kukumbuka.
He revealed his past to us during a choir competition organized by Nakada in Nyeri County, where youths from 4 districts, Othaya, Kieni West, Nyeri Central and Madera, participated in the competition. Stakeholders are alarmed that while alcohol abuse in central Kenya has gone down, the use of hard drugs is seemingly on the rise.
I'm an university student. Now, drug usage is the order of the day.
After the competition, I wanted some feedback from the young people, and one young man has said the hard drug, like heroin, has started penetrating into our schools.
We have noted a rise in the consumption of drugs, and this is our concern also as Nakada, and we are putting measures to ensure that we are able to curb the same.
And just like Stephen Kimani, who is now a pastor, having successfully kicked off his drug habit, there is light at the end of the tunnel for the many other central Kenya youths trapped in drug abuse. Carol Nderi for KTN in Nyeri.
And now to our weekly Survivor series. And tonight, we focus on a woman who has gone through years of hell with the first pregnancy ending in a stillbirth and having 8 miscarriages over the next 15 years. Doctors say that she could not be helped and was doomed to a life of humiliation and insult from her family and mental anguish that she would never be a mother. That is until now. Catherine Omwanto is up next with this week's survivor, Alice, and her story of hope.
Kakane na kende ne kimila marwa majaluo wache ni kai se bedo godako to kapod ndalo nyokoromo 60 ber mondo nwang'ori bedo.
Too old to be called a child and too young to be called a woman. Alice became Owino's wife at the age of 14. Her husband was 15 years older than her.
Ikafika mwezi wa 12 nikashika mimba. Ikaanza kuniuma tarehe 10 mwezi wa 9.
That was in 1997. Even at the age of 15, Alice knew it was too risky to give birth at home. And with the delivery drawing near, Alice made her way to the first clinic she could find.
Sasa mtoto alikwama kwa tumbo wakafuruta tu. Baada ya kufuruta ndio makojo ikaanza tu hapo. Nikauliza daktari, na vile makojo inapita tu bila break. Na daktari akaniambia ni ile tu mtoto alikuwa mkubwa ndio kwa sababu imekuwa hivyo. Sasa nikae tu hata mpaka wiki moja makojo itarudi chini. Ikisharudi chini hivyo sasa utasikia vizuri. Nikarudi hapa sasa ndio imezidi, nikikunywa maji inaenda tu through.
A week came and went. Nothing changed. The birth ruptured the lining between her bladder and birth canal, causing a fistula or opening, meaning that she could not hold urine. And for the next 15 years, Alice would live a life of shame.
Nikarudi kwa hospitali. Daktari wakaniambia hakuna vile watanifanya. Sasa nichukue tu viraka niweke huko chini. Nikienda mbele ya watu. Sasa vile nilirudi hapa bwana akasema siwezi kulala kwa kitanda yake kwa sababu sikununua, nilale tu chini. Ndio nikaanza tu kulala kama nimesimama kwa ukuta.
Despite the insults, she remained a devoted wife.
Sasa anakaa akifikiria, anakuja ananiambia anataka hiyo kitu yake yenye ina maji hiyo. Akilala na mimi napata mimba.
Her husband's urges led to 7 more pregnancies, all of which ended up in miscarriages.
Huyo wa kwanza alitoka tu miezi 9 na wiki 2. Sasa hawa vile hii ilianza kutoka, mwingine akatoka na miezi 7, mwingine akitoka na miezi 6. Sasa hawa wa mwisho wa sasa makojo ilikuwa inatoka bila break, ni nyingi sana. Sasa walikuwa wanatoka 4-3. Sasa hiyo na makojo ilikuwa inaingia kwa mfuko wa mtoto.
Austin, kuja.
Her husband married another wife, one whose pregnancies would bear fruit. After all, he says, a man is not a man until he has a child to show for it.
Najua bila kijana hawezi kaa peke yake. Na hii bila mafuta hii ya lianto hii na chakula ile tamu ni akafanya nioe ingine. Sasa vile tulioa nyingine, sasa ingine anasaa.
His new wife bore him 4 children. Recently, Alice's house was burnt down. She believes it was her co-wife who planned the arson.
Kwa sababu ninasikia ya kwamba ati huyu mke mwenza ndiye alituma watoto wachome. Kwa sababu nilikuwa nafanya biashara na sijali huyo bwana, na ninajinunulia viti, ninajinunulia vitambaa. Sasa aliona kama nimepamba nyumba yangu na hawanipendi, na yeye hajapamba nyumba yake na wanampenda.
Her husband built another house for her, a smaller one, because she has no children. And when we ask him about his alleged mistreatment towards Alice,
sio kumdharau. Najua bibi yako kama ni tamu, uweze kumdharau. Tulikaa na yeye. Najua mtu kama na madharau bwana bibi yake anaweza kufugusa, lakini mimi nakaa na yeye kama bibi yangu.
Sasa ananiambia nikipenda niende kwetu ama niolekee bwana mwingine. Nikamwambia ulinipata tu kama mimi ni mzuri hivi. Sasa yeye unanifukuza, na wewe ndio ulikuja mpaka kwetu mkanifuruta.
She held on to her marriage and the man she loves. For Alice, being a woman who smells of urine is not as bad as being known as the woman who left her husband. In April this year, Alice's luck changed. She was taken for an operation at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, where experts repaired her fistula, but she went with a secret. Her womb holds her 10th pregnancy.
Wakaniambia 3 naelekea 4. Ninatarajia nikipata nishukuru Mungu, hata nyinyi nimuite muone huyo mtoto.
In case you're wondering, it's a girl. And doctors say because her fistula has been repaired, this pregnancy may just give Alice her first child.
Akinipatia mpaka mtakuja muone na macho. Ninaomba tu Mungu anipatie tu hata mmoja, anitolee tu kicheko. Watoto 10 kama wanakufa kwako, si ni vibaya?
30-year-old Alice says that she wants more children after the birth of her daughter in September, but not necessarily to please her husband. It seems that it will be a reminder that she has survived the worst 15 years of her life. Catherine Omwando for the Survivor Series.
Catherine Omonto there with the story of a woman full of hope. Of course, we wish Alice all the best. Let me bring you some update on that top story that we had for you on the fighting that has been going on in Garissa. Earlier on, we had told you that there has been heavy gunfire exchange that has been going on in Garissa over the last couple of hours. What we knew by then is that administration police post had been attacked. 2 APs plus the Damajale chief had been kidnapped by armed militia. That was unconfirmed. The news that is getting to KTN News Desk just right now that we now know the name of the Damajale chief. His name is Omar Khalif. What we know right now is that he is said to be undergoing treatment at Kulan Health Center. That is after a search was mounted for him and the residents there managed to find him. So the area chief, Omar Khalif, is said to be undergoing treatment in Kulan Health Center. The fate of AP officers who are also said to have been missing is still unknown. What we had been informed earlier on is that 2 APs plus the chief had been kidnapped by armed militia, and of course that is a story we are keeping an eye on for you. What we also know at the moment is that an unidentified body is lying at the AP camp. That gunfire is still on. So once again, the area chief Omar Khalif is said to be undergoing treatment. He is alive. The only thing that is worrying a lot of people is the fate of AP officers who are, a lot of people seem not to know where they are. Of course, we're keeping an eye on this story, and once we know what's going on, we will let you know as it proceeds. Now, wild animals and domestic animals rarely get to live together. However, in Mililiwo village, Elgeyo Marakwet County, a monkey and a sheep interact as if they are the same breed. Whether it is friendship or monkey business, it is a relationship that has left the residents in awe. KTN's Mercy Kandia with that story of a rare friendship from the North Rift.
Like a child on a mother's back, this has been the kind of friendship between this monkey and sheep. The monkey belonging to Evelyn Kosgei, brought home by her husband after a trip to get charcoal in the Kerio Valley about a year ago.
Sasa akaleta makaa kufika njiani, gari karibika. Akalala msituni. Sasa vile tulifika hapa nyumbani kutoa magunia ya makaa, tunapata kitu iko ndani. Hasa kuangalia tunaona ni mtoto wa mangi.
Since then, this has been home to the monkey, and she has made new friends and family, from the children in the village to the sheep that the Kosgei family keep, being particularly attached to this one, the black sheep.
Niko na watoto watatu, na yeye sasa ni kama last born. Ndio sasa nikaona, kitambo nilikuwa nasema nitaita mtoto yangu Damaris. Sasa ndio nikampea jina Damaris. Hasa kwa sababu anatoka kwa wakale, ninaita Damaris Chepkogei.
It is no extra burden for the Kosgeis.
Dama.
So monkey Dama became part of the family, with this being the routine every morning as the 4 sheep venture out to graze.
Na tena hako na kazi yake, asubuhi akiamuka anaangalia kila kondoo, anatoa ticks kwa kondoo.
Monkey Dama was brought here a year ago. Her interaction with the residents of Mindililo village in Elgeyo Marakwet County is now a norm here, and perhaps a challenge to the villagers to set their differences aside and live in harmony.
Vile tuliona hii mnyama, tuliweza kushangaa sana vile wanashirikiana na wanyama wengine. Hii mnyama ni wa mwituni na hizi zingine ni wanyama tu wa nyumbani.
The Kosgeis are waiting for a permit from the Kenya Wildlife Service so they can legally have custody over Dama.
Kwa sababu imesikizana na watoto wangu, imesikizana na kondoo, hata na umbu, hata na paka.
And so on top of this tree, or is it home, is where Dama now knows as her residence.
Whether or not you get to learn a lesson or two from this rare friendship, for the villagers of Mindililo village, to them it's not only a fascination, but a constant reminder for them to work together regardless of their differences. Mercy Kandia, KTN, Mindililo village, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
And now to a battle of friendship and investigations by the Standard. On Sunday, team revealed how Uhuru Kenyatta won over his deputy William Ruto against Prime Minister Raila Odinga in the run-up to the March 4th general election. The decision to back Kenyatta was made by some 13 MPs from the Kalenjin community after a night-long meeting at Ruto's residence in Karen on October 12th. MPs were divided whether to support Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga or Kalonzo Musyoka for the presidency. In tomorrow's Standard newspaper, we reveal the MPs who were in support of Uhuru presidency and those who backed Raila. The meeting also touched on how to sell 2 ICC indictees and convince voters they would be able to govern the country. Of course, for details of this meeting that changed the landscape of Kenya's politics, get your copy of The Standard on Sunday, that is tomorrow. Hope you'll get your copy. You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll have the day sports.
Half the children we operate have a problem called rheumatic heart disease, and it's caused by a sore throat that is not properly treated. Therefore, if we were able to get to children before they get this rheumatic heart disease, a dose of antibiotics only costs about 100 bob. So we would hope that we can be able to teach more people about rheumatic heart disease and avoid what can be avoided.
Football Kenya Federation, in partnership with BTB Proactive Media, have launched the Mbao for Bao campaign aimed at raising funds for the national soccer team Harambee Stars. The launch of the campaign comes just weeks after the launch of Friends of Harambee Stars initiative that also targets to raise funds for the team. FKF targets to raise over 250 million shillings to finance the team's campaign for one of the continent's World Cup slots. Kenya will be hosting Nigeria on June 5th in Nairobi at the 60,000-seater stadium in Kasarani. In the first leg match played in Calabar, the two teams drew 1-1 after Nigeria. Kenya will next travel to Malawi before inviting Namibia in Nairobi.
Harambee Stars will be playing a very important match in this country, and we are playing the African champions, and we are prepared to win that match. So we are requesting His Excellency the President, who in his manifesto has assured us that he's going to support running of sports in this country, so that we can be public holiday. One day will not matter how much if we can all rally behind our national team.
It will be a Kenya versus Uganda final in this year's Bamburi Super Series rugby tournament at the KRFU here in Nairobi. Renzori from Uganda took advantage of Balor Nyumbu missing their key players and annihilated the Kenyans 32-0 at Kiadongo grounds. At the RFUA grounds in Nairobi, top Fry Ndovu managed a slim swim over their competitors, that would be UAP Papa, in an exciting match. Former Kenyan international Gibson Weru was instrumental in Ndovu's qualification to the final.
Two semi-final matches in the country, and Uganda resulted to a tense final showdown in Nairobi, where it will be a Kenya versus Uganda affair. Balore Nyumbu traveled to Uganda without some of the key players and were forced to pay dearly as they lost the plot at the Kandondo grounds. At the RFUA grounds, it turned physical as top Fry Ndovu secured their first ever final ticket in the tournament. Former Kenya Sevens international Gibson Weru was one of the main pillars, steering Ndovu to a vital win. The match was a seesaw affair in the first half, and it was Papa who showed early intentions, but top Fry Ndovu, which boasts of Kenya Cup winners, will not take it lying down. The first half saw Papa lead 14-7 with Captain Curtis Likalo, the force behind the performance.
Try time.
Lack of concentration was the gate pass for Ndovu, who utilized every chance that came their way to win the match 34-22, with Martin Muita named the man of the match.
The Ndovu guys came harder than us. We didn't expect that. We expected the same thing they had in the first half. We weren't ready for what they gave us. Yeah, we just lost our foot.
In Uganda, Solomon Okia and Felix Mubiru were instrumental in punishing Kenyan franchise Balore Nyumbu, who had not traveled with a full squad. The Ugandan side will take on top Fry Ndovu next weekend after annihilating Nyumbu 32-0. Nicholas Mudimba, KTN Sports.
KTN Sports Today.
You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for your company. Since we began this bulletin, this is where we leave it. Have a good night, of course. Tomorrow we'll have details of that attack that is currently taking place in Garissa. Sleep well. I'm Linda Oguchu.